Hey guys, Hayden here again from Alarm System Store, and today we are going to be hooking up some wired zones to the IQ Pro. So I have a door contact here, and then I have a motion. We're going to be using different EOL types for both of these, and I'm going to show you guys how to hook them up to the system, how to wire them in, and then I'm going to show you how to go into the installer app and set those up. And that should give you guys a pretty good idea of how zone setup works. I'm not going to hook up any other types of sensors. Most of them will follow one of the two basic principles. It'll either be just a switch or it will be a powered device like a motion sensor. So if you guys need anything specific, just how to wire it, just how to program it, you can skip to that part in the video. Should be chapters down below for you. Anyway, for now, I'm just going to show you guys, like I said, how to wire these in, and then we will get started on the programming. So first off, we're going to wire up the door contact. So the way I'm doing the door contact is just a normally closed loop. So it is not going to be using an EOL resistor, an end-of-line resistor. So in that case, basically you just connect the wires to your door contact, like so. If you can get the wires in the terminal holes. And then you tighten it down. And you just do so without a resistor. All right, so as you can see, all I've done is connect the yellow and green wires. The reason I'm using yellow and green is because when you're doing low voltage for alarm systems, white and green, yellow and green are basically your data wires. So this is just an open or closed loop. Normally you would save red or black for power, but this device doesn't require power. So we're just doing yellow and green. So over here on the system, whenever you are hooking up your wired zones, you basically just have to determine which sensor is going to be on each zone in your panel. So by default, most people are just going to put their front door first. So this is going to be our front door, and we're just going to attach it to zone 1. So on the panel here, I'll zoom in so you guys can see better, but there are sets of zone terminals, and each pair shares a common terminal. So zone 1 and 2 right there have 3 total terminals. So you have zone 1, common, and then zone 2. So basically, your yellow wire is going to go into the zone terminal, and then the green wire for both zones 1 and 2 will go into the common there. So as you can see there, I just have the 2 wires connected to zone 1 and then the common, and then whenever we go to hook up zone 2, the zone wire for zone 2 is going to go in the zone 2 terminal, and it's going to share that common there. And that is all you have to do for a very simple switch like this. So any type of switch that is not powered, you basically just hook up with a couple wires, connect it to a zone so that the zone is able to read whether the circuit is open or closed, and that tells the system what state the sensor is in. Now, we're going to move on to the motion detector. So there's a little bit more going on here, so I'll go over it real quick. So right here you have voltage plus and voltage negative, and that is just your power, your positive and negative power, and I'll show you where to get that from at the panel here in a second. So you're going to hook your red and black up to the V plus and V negative. Now, not all motions are going to have these exact terminal names, but it should be something like that, 12 volt positive, 12 positive, something like that. So, all right, moving on from there, you have your NC and C terminals. So some motions will also have an NO terminal, and basically that lets you decide whether or not you want the motion to be normally open or normally closed. This one only gives you the option for normally closed, and then the C is the common. And this is wired a little bit backwards. Normally you would have the yellow in the NC terminal, and then the green going to the C terminal with the resistor in line like that. However, technically, polarity doesn't really matter. It's just a little bit easier for anybody that works on it that follows the standard for wiring. So, like I mentioned, this is using an EOL resistor. Because it is normally closed, we have this resistor in series. So what that means is the resistor is just going straight out on the common, and then it's hitting the wire that is going to be attached to the common, and then that completes the normally closed in series circuit with the resistor. If this was a motion that had normally open operation, normally open basically means it needs to see the resistance whenever the motion is not triggered. In a normally open circuit, there is no resistance, it's just an open circuit. So what you would do is complete the circuit by having your 2 wires tucked into, let's pretend this is NO for the time being. you would have the wires connected to NO and C, and then you would use the resistor and you would jumper the terminals. And that way, with the resistance added, the electricity is allowed to flow in to the NO, through the resistor, to the common, and then back to the panel. And that way the panel can see that resistance while the sensor is untriggered. Whenever it's triggered, it closes, which means it skips the resistance. That shows the panel that it has been triggered. So if you want to read more about like resistors and whether you should use them or not, we do have a video on our website and our YouTube channel about that. So that will give you all the knowledge you need on why you might want to use resistors, so on and so forth. So I'm not going to touch on it anymore. However, I will mention that because we are using a resistor, that means we have to set it up differently in the panel, which we will get to in just a minute. And then for connecting the motion to the panel. So as I mentioned, our red and black are going to be for power. So over here on the main board of the panel, you'll see an aux1 and an aux2 set of terminals. There's a plus and minus for each one, positive and negative. All right, so when you're wiring this up, like I said, the red and black here are going to be the power for our motion. So we're going to connect those to aux1, positive and negative over here. You want to try and use all of aux1, fill it up as much as you can before moving over to aux2. aux2 is used for other things like outputs and smoke detectors. So, all right, so now that our power is connected, we're going to hook up our zone wires. So like I said, we're going to use zone 2 for this. So basically, just the same as we did last time, you're going to connect one wire to the zone 2 terminal, and then you're going to connect the other wire to the common. So this is what wiring for both of the sensors is going to look like. So you'll see our power is over here on aux1 for any power devices, and our zone wiring just goes down the line as needed. All right, so at this point, we can turn the system on and we can connect up the app and get ready to start programming. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'll be right back. All right, so we are connected to the system using the app. So you are going to need either the installer code or the dealer code to access the zone programming. So enter with, I always use the dealer code since I'm here. So now that we are logged into the system using that installer or dealer code, you're going to get your dashboard. So I'm going to show you guys how you would set up a zone if you were going through the installer wizard, and then I'm also going to show you how to just come in and add them as needed if you decide to add more, whatever the case is. So first we're going to do the installer wizard. So once you launch the wizard, I have to skip through this part. If you've seen this watching one of the other videos, give me just a moment, I'll be right back. All right, so as you're going through the installer wizard, you will end up on this security screen. So as you can see here, we basically have this main board. It has the core bus module, which that's talking about the blue main board under here, where you're wiring all your devices in. And then each of these panel input slots is a zone on the panel. So the way the IQ Pro and all IQ systems work is a little bit odd compared to like a regular hardwired system. So all the numbers are a little bit off. Basically, what I mean by that is zone 1 here is technically panel input 1, slot 2. So technically this is slot 2 on the system because this core bus is counting as slot 1. So it can be a little bit confusing when you're looking at one and looking back and forth between the two. So don't pay attention to the slot number, pay attention to the input number. So what you want is zone 1, input 1, zone 2, input 2, so on and so forth. So just try and remember that. It'll make your life a whole lot easier. All right, so like I mentioned, we have the door contact and then we have the motion. Those are going to be our zones 1 and 2, or on here, input 1 and input 2. So you click on panel input 1 and then click the pencil down in the bottom left, and it's going to bring up your zone options. So right here at the top, it's going to give you a sensor type. You can select what type of sensor you have connected, whether it's a door window, a motion, glass break, key fob, whatever. Select that there, and then you're going to go onto the sensor name. So we're just going to make this the front door. So delete what's in there, just click front door right there, or if you want to give it a custom name, you're welcome to as well. And once you've given it a name, just back out, and then right here under sensor group. So the sensor group options are going to be determined by the sensor type you chose. So for doors and windows, these are all the sensor types you're going to use. And entry exit, selection means that this is a door that we're going to be coming in through, and we want to have time to disarm the system. So it gives you an entry delay and an exit delay so that when you can arm the system and leave as well. So select that, or instant perimeter. That is going to be the zones that, whenever opened, instantly trigger the alarm while it's armed. And so, like any side doors that you don't enter from or windows, you'll set those as perimeter. The rest of these are covered in the reference manual if you want to check them out. Since this is our front door, we're going to leave it entry exit. And then you can select a chime type, whether voice prompts will be on or off, whether you're cross zoning, only do that if you know what you're doing. You can select if it's going to be bypassable or not. And then down here under sensor input, we do have to make a selection. And so by default, IQ Pro is going to want to see end-of-line resistors. However, we hook this one up without a resistor. So you click the sensor input, select normally closed, because that's what this sensor is going to be. It's going to be normally closed while the door is closed, and then opened when the door is opened. So select normally closed there, click save, and that is our door contact fully set up. And as you can see, it's changed the name there for us so that we know that it's already done. So now we have to set up the motion. So you're going to click on the motion, and then you're going to click on the pencil down here to edit. And then you're going to select sensor type. It is a motion. That's going to, again, give you a specific set of sensor group options. So we have away instant motion, stay instant motion. Like I said, if you want to read through those, they're in the reference manual. And by default, most motions are going to be away instant motion, so it's already set as it needs to be. So we can now name the detector. Let's just say family room motion. Back out. And then chime isn't really going to matter on motions. They're not going to chime by default. So now you can leave everything else the way that it is. You don't have to plug anything else in. However, since we do have an end-of-line resistor in here, we are going to set the sensor input, which is going to be end of line right there. Other than that, just click save when you're done. And now when we back out, we have both the front door and the family room motion set up. So these two sensors are good to go. Now, on the rest of these zones, it's going to give you all 8 that are on this main board. So if you have 8 full zones, by all means, set them all up. If not, you can actually just go in here and delete these. So I'll delete zone 7 because I know we're not going to use that anytime soon. So you go into the zone, you select the trash can right here, and it will remove it from the system. That means the system is no longer looking for zone 7. We can go back in later and plug it back in if we need to. However, we're not going to need to, so we'll cover that in another video. Moving on from there, by default, you always have the tamper for the cabinet connected, and that is going to be zone 8. So that's these brown wires right here. It goes up to this little tab. So whenever the cover's on, it pushes the button. When it's not, it releases it. If you have a metal cabinet, you won't have that, but now that we are done with that, I'm going to move through the rest of the install wizard, and then I'll show you guys how to do the programming if you're going in after you've been through the install wizard. All right, so if you've already been through the install wizard and you want to go in and set up some new zones, basically you'll just have to connect to the dashboard here. Go to the config section, click on installation, devices, security sensors. So this is what you'll see when you get to the security sensor screen. So you're going to have your core bus module, which is your main board right here, your set of terminals, and then you're going to have each of the zones pre-populated for you. So you're going to have contact panel input 1, slot 2, and what that's talking about is zone 1 on the main board. Don't pay attention to the slot numbers. The slot number is basically like the number within the entire IQ system. So like the core bus is slot 1, this first sensor is slot 2, so on. Just pay attention to the panel input numbers, and that'll tell you what zone you're working with. So panel input 1 is going to be zone 1, and that's where we have our door contact connected, so we have to set that zone up. So you click on panel input 1, and then click the pencil down in the bottom left, and it's going to bring up your zone options. So right here at the top, it's going to give you a sensor type. You can select what type of sensor you have connected, whether it's a door window, a motion, glass break, key fob, whatever. Select that there, and then you're going to go onto the sensor name. So we're just going to make this the front door. So delete what's in there, just click front door right there, or if you want to give it a custom name, you're welcome to as well. Once you've given it a name, just back out, and then right here under sensor group. So the sensor group options are going to be determined by the sensor type you chose. So for doors and windows, these are all the sensor types you're going to use. An entry exit selection means that this is a door that we're going to be coming in through and we want to have time to disarm the system. So it gives you an entry delay and an exit delay so that when you can arm the system and leave as well. So select that, or instant perimeter. That is going to be the zones that whenever opened instantly trigger the alarm while it's armed. And so like any side doors that you don't enter from or windows, you'll set those as perimeter. The rest of these are covered in the reference manual if you want to check them out. Since this is our front door, we're going to leave it entry exit. And then you can select a chime type, whether voice prompts will be on or off, whether you're cross zoning, only do that if you know what you're doing. You can select if it's going to be bypassable or not. And then down here under sensor input, we do have to make a selection. So by default, IQ Pro is going to want to see end-of-line resistors. However, we hook this one up without a resistor. So you click the sensor input, select normally closed, because that's what this sensor is going to be. It's going to be normally closed while the door is closed, and then opened when the door is opened. So select normally closed there, click save, and that is our door contact fully set up. And as you can see, it's changed the name there for us so that we know that it's already done. So now we have to set up the motion. So you're going to click on the motion, and then you're going to click on the pencil down here to edit, and then you're going to select sensor type. It is a motion. That's going to, again, give you a specific set of sensor group options. So we have away instant motion, stay instant motion. Like I said, if you want to read through those, they're in the reference manual. And by default, most motions are going to be away instant motion, so it's already set as it needs to be. So we can now name the detector. Let's just say family room motion. Back out. And then chime isn't really going to matter on motions. They're not going to chime by default. So now you can leave everything else the way that it is. You don't have to plug anything else in. However, since we do have an end-of-line resistor in here, we are going to set the sensor input, which is going to be end of line right there. Other than that, just click save when you're done. So now, as you can see, we have both the front door and the motion and the family room motion hooked up, and those are ready to go. So we can actually test whether or not these are working correctly, because as you can see right there, whenever I pulled the magnet away and my hand went in front of the motion, right here it shows them disconnected, which basically means the zone is open. So what it's telling you is that zone is being triggered. Whenever it's not showing anything right there, it means the zone is idle. It's good. So without even having to back out and actually test, you can see right there whether or not your zones are working properly. So if I just move that, you'll see zone 1 opening up. And then if I trigger the motion, like I just did, the motion will go back and forth between either good or bad. So the only other thing I want to touch on real quick now that since I have you is how to set the entry and exit times for those doors and windows. So what you're going to do is you're just going to back out a couple pages and you're going to go into security and arming on this page and then click on delay timers. So right here, you can see the normal entry and exit delay are set to 30 seconds and 60 seconds respectively. That means you have 60 seconds to leave whenever you arm the system, and you have 30 seconds to come in and get to your keypad to type in your code upon returning. You can set these to whatever you want, even though this one says long entry and exit delay, and they are by default longer, you can set them the same time as the other if you want to. So it's just keep in mind which one you set to which, whether it's normal or long. So one really neat feature I want to show you guys real quick. It's kind of a shortcut to get to that security sensor section. Right here, if you click on the arrow on Core Bus from the dashboard, it actually takes you into that security sensors page. The plus right here allows you to turn on the auto learn, and you can go in and edit any of the sensors that you need to. So that's just kind of a shortcut to get to that security sensors section. Another neat feature is if you click the blue and red bar right here, it will bring up and show your troubles. So as you can see right here, we do have a core bus trouble. We have a bell circuit trouble, which is part of the core bus. We have a tamper trouble. That is related to the main tamper here. And then we have a malfunction or supervisory trouble. And that's because I don't have the keypads that I enrolled from before connected right now. So it's saying, hey, these modules are missing. We need to find keypad 1 and keypad 2. Basically, if you get those in a normal scenario, it means that the system's not able to talk to those modules, so it's going to give you those troubles. The core bus module troubles, that's going to be, like I said, the bell circuit, and it's also going to be the tamper sensor that's right there, and then all of these zones that we have yet to program. So you do need to decide what you're going to do with all the rest of your zones before you can just back out and be done with it. So right here, it has 4 troubles, so it's a quick, easy way to find out what is going on before you back out of the system. So if there's anything else you might need to do, you can do so. Anyway, that's going to do it for zone installation and programming. Hope that was informative. Keep an eye out for more videos. The next one we're going to do is enrolling wired modules, such as this zone expander right here. So we'll cover that in our next video. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments. Give us a like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next one. G, 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 G.